So I was invited on a camping trip by a close girlfriend. I thought, sure, why not? That sounds like a peaceful, not stressful at all activity, right? I asked her, can I bring my dog, Sasha? She said, of course. I mean, obviously, Sasha is totally adorable. But I just start sensing this nervous energy, like radiating off of her. It kind of felt like that moment when a salesperson is about to hit you with all the hidden fees. She looks at me, her face filled with dread, and she starts to speak, but with a hesitation in her voice, and she pauses and says, Wynn, I need to tell you something. I'm worried that you might not get along with one of the campers. My mind immediately starts scrolling through all of the worst possible things a person could potentially be or say or do. Do they not like pineapple on pizza? Do they wear socks with sandals? Ew, gross. Have they never watched Glee? Oh no. Are they not a dog person? And she finally reveals it's their political beliefs. They're a Trump supporter. There it was, the big issue. But my first thought, thank goodness Sasha can still go on the camping trip. I asked her half jokingly, so like, do they hate gay people or something? And she goes, oh my gosh, no, nothing like that, she assures me. And then I realize this is about more than our hopes or fears, or about silly things like our fashion and food and TV shows. I cared about puppies, not about political beliefs. This story, it's not just about camping. It's about our fears and our assumptions. We often dread conversations with those who think differently than us, retreating into our echo chambers, fueling societal polarization. Let's talk about the elephant, or donkey in the room. Our polarized society, it's gotten to the point where it feels like the mere mention of any controversial topic, which is pretty much anything and everything these days, is like opening up a confrontational conversation. We are dodging landmines made out of explosive biases and beliefs. Think about it. You're scrolling through social media, and you see a post that clashes with your beliefs. What do? Eye rolls, silent snark, maybe keep on rolling or scrolling. But what are you really doing here? You're avoiding, right? And it's easier to stay in the comfort of your echo chamber. In these echo chambers, you see, our views get echoed back to us and reaffirmed. It's comfortable, yes, but it's also isolating. It puts us into bubbles and cuts us off from any opinion different than our own. And what that causes is our ability to have social conversations with people is diminished. We've turned the people we disagree with into villains who only get to exist inside of our worst possible imaginations. With nobody around to challenge our beliefs, how can we think otherwise? But here's the reality check. Growth doesn't work well in our comfort zone. Growth thrives in the spaces where we dare to engage, to question, to listen. In order to grow, we must step outside of our comfort zones. Maybe I'm weird, but I actually love having awkward moments. I can't stand the basic small chat that goes something like, oh, how has work been? Oh, you know, busy, the usual. Yeah, the usual, as in the same boring, usual conversation that tells you literally nothing about the person you're talking to or the world that they're living in. It's in the weird, awkward moments that are uncomfortable that we actually get to learn things, because they're unpredictable. That's what makes them awkward. Now, let's dive into a concept I like to call the movable middle. Imagine a spectrum of beliefs and attitudes in society. On the one end, you have these staunch, immovable opinions like mountains, firm and unyielding. And on the other, the polar opposite, equally as steadfast. But right in the center, there's this group, the movable middle. These aren't your headline makers. These are the folks who aren't shouting out and protesting at the crowds. These are the folks who, with a challenging conversation, can shift from passive observers to active change makers. They are eager to participate, but just not sure how. They want to learn more, but they don't know the questions to ask. They are not set in their ways, but they are ready to learn and grow. Most importantly, they are able to bridge the divide in a hyperpolarized world, the movable middle. There are people that you might meet every day. Think about it. If a teacher in the movable middle makes the minor decision to update one of the readings in their course curriculum to include more diverse characters, and that ends up encouraging more students to participate in class because they now feel included. They actually care about what they're learning. Or what if a doctor takes the time to read up on the research about the best ways to ask questions about STI screening? And that encourages some of the patients to be less nervous about answering honestly. And as a result, they do better prevention work for the community. This small action, this small effort to dare to do things differently, creates an enormous ripple effect in the community. Sure, they're not screaming out at the top of their lungs, but they are making small wins of change. But it's not all smooth sailing for the movable middle. Sometimes when the wind blows to the west, they move that way. Sometimes when the wind blows to the east, they go that way. Sometimes they end up scattered around in the wind. So the movable middle has a common misconception as a result, that they're either indifferent or maybe apathetic. They just don't care about society's issues. But I think it's more like they're standing at a crossroads, and there's a bunch of signs pointing in different directions, and Google Maps is just not working. They're lost. They often lack the resources or guidance to navigate these issues. It's like when you're trying to assemble IKEA furniture, and you have no instruction manual, or even if you do, honestly, you have all these pieces, the will to change, the basic understanding of topics, but how do they all fit together? Oh my goodness, why is this so challenging? Another barrier is the fear of saying or doing the wrong thing. They want to move, to make a step, but they stay paralyzed in fear that they're going to say the wrong thing and end up in a confrontation. The movable middle is terrified of pissing off people who are not in the movable middle. And speaking of fear, let me share a little story. We're here at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV. Sometimes on the way to the campus library, I'd see Mormons riding around on bicycles. And suddenly, I'd morph into a secret agent on stealth mode. My mission? To avoid the missionaries at all costs. No theological showdown on the sidewalk for me. I would zigzag through the crowds. I would duck behind bushes. I'd suddenly look at the student booth over there handing out pamphlets and develop an intense interest in whatever they're giving me, oh look, it says here you're the Geological Society and you study rocks. How utterly fascinating. I would do anything to avoid them. But here's the delicious irony. Now, as a relentlessly gay man, I sometimes notice people looking at me like I am the leader of the gay Illuminati, about to initiate them into the secrets of fabulousness. I can almost hear their thoughts. Brace yourself, Margaret. He's about to unveil the grand gay agenda. But in reality, I'm just here striding along with my iced coffee, probably worrying about how Sasha's at home destroying another pillowcase. My gay agenda involves getting home, eating dinner, preferably tacos, and then maybe watching reruns of Schitt's Creek for the 17th time. It's so comical. We are in this sort of blooper reel. It's this offbeat sitcom where I'm thinking that everybody around me is some enemy I need to dodge like a spy. They're scared of me like I'm a walking pride parade. At the end of the day, we're just extras in each other's movies, right? We're all doing it, avoiding things we don't understand, yet ironically sometimes ending up on the other side of that. I've definitely dodged my fair share of challenging conversations over the years, but I've also made mistakes in mishandling them. Once upon a time in high school, I was that kid, the devil's advocate, the competitive one, the one that was always ready to say something to start an argument. In my first debate tournament, I made my opponent cry, and I thought that was a victory to be proud of. Then I went to law school, and I honed my ability to argue even more effectively. I sharpened my words like a weapon. But here's the lesson that law school didn't teach me. Sometimes winning the argument, it means losing the person. People don't like being told that they're wrong. I thought there has to be a better way to handle challenging conversations. So I decided to research it. I've nearly PhD'd in multicultural curriculum and instruction. My dissertation will be about doing diversity trainings differently, in a way that actually makes a measurable difference in people's values and attitudes and beliefs by creating a space where they can critically engage and ask questions, something that they never felt comfortable doing previously. It's not about telling people that my opinion's right or trying to win an argument. It's definitely not about brainwashing people into the gay agenda. It's just giving us a space to be able to talk and figure things out. These are complex topics. Let me give you a real-world example. So in one of my trainings, I had a group of educators who believed they fully understood the difference between the terms sex and gender. They all had taken high school biology. In fact, some of them even taught it. None of them thought that they were prejudiced. They were people in the movable middle, right? So they began to awkwardly answer questions like, what is the scientific origin of the difference between the classifications of sex? Why did society first start putting birth certificates and sex together? Why did they want to list that on a piece of paper? Has gender-neutral language actually been a new thing, or has it been around for a while in different cultures and times? As they started answering these questions, they just got more questions. And then these abstract concepts, they became reality. It's about something so important beyond the data that comes out of this, telling me that people's values, attitudes, and beliefs have changed. It's about the story of the time a teacher who had attended one of my trainings came to me a couple weeks later and said, Wynn, I haven't been able to talk to my son, my adult son, for years. We've been apart. And ever since attending your training, I felt that we've been able to finally have some challenging conversations and begin to understand each other, at least ever so slightly. It's about no more holidays and dinners spent apart from your family, friends, and loved ones because you're too scared to have a challenging conversation with them. So where do we go from here? It's simple, yet profound. I'll leave you with a tool you can try. It's a simple activity called 10 questions. The next time that you are discussing a controversial topic, instead of jumping in with your views, just ask the other person 10 questions about it. No judgment, no assumptions, just listen. You'll be surprised how many people are not these mountains of immovable doubt, but actually hills of curiosity and doubt, the movable middle. Imagine a future where diversity isn't just tolerated, but celebrated. A future where we don't just coexist, but we co-grow, learning from each other, enriching our perspectives. It's a future where dialogues bridge divides, where understanding dismantles stereotypes. In this future, our differences aren't just acknowledged, they're celebrated. They are the threads that weave a complex society together, because deep down inside, no matter how different we are, we all value each other's core humanity in a way that binds us. In closing, remember this. Challenging conversations aren't just talk. They're the catalysts of change. Every great movement, every leap in human understanding began with a conversation. It's in the exchange of words, ideas, and feelings that we find the vision to victory. So I urge you, step outside of your comfort zone. Grow, engage, talk, listen. And that's how we move together. not just as individuals, but as a society. Thank you.